We are here today at Bohme, a women's clothing retailer headquartered in Sandy. Bohme has 17 retail locations throughout Utah, Idaho, South Dakota, Iowa, and Montana. Included among them is this, their newest store at the City Creek Mall in downtown Salt Lake City. We look forward to hearing in just a few moments from Fernanda Bohme, a co-founder of Bohme, on what they are seeing in the retail environment and how tariffs and current economic conditions are affecting their business. Before we get to that, though, I want to provide the latest update on consumer sentiment here in the state. Cicero Group and ZionsBank recently concluded our monthly survey of 500 Utah households, and while there is some uncertainty, overall consumer sentiment has improved. The overall ZionsBank Utah Consumer Attitude Index increased 6.2 points to 119.3 in September, driven by Utahns' confidence about their jobs and their income. In comparison, the National Consumer Confidence Index decreased 9.1 points to 125.1 this month. The Utah Present Situation Index, which measures Utahns' assessment of present economic conditions, jumped 6.9 points to 139.6, as 96% of Utahns feel that business conditions are either normal or good. That's just 1% below the highest point ever recorded since ZionsBank and Cicero Group began tracking the index in 2011. Positivity extends to Utahns' future expectations as well. The Utah Expectations Index rose 5.7 points in September to 105.8. Most notably, Utahns are more positive about their future incomes, as 40% of Utahns feel their income will increase in the next 6 months. That's an increase of 4% since last month. There are some uncertainties among Utahns, though, as 18% of Utahns feel business conditions will get worse in the next 6 months. This is an increase of 4% as well. This change is the biggest driver of the year-over-year drop of 7.4 points in the Expectations Index since September last year. Some of this uncertainty is likely coming from mixed economic signals coming both from the Federal Reserve Board, which decreased interest rates again, as well as from recent manufacturing job data showing a slowing in nationwide manufacturing growth. Which brings us to trade. Recent implementation of additional tariffs, as well as ratcheting rhetoric and intensifying trade negotiations between the United States and China, has definitely caused jitters in the financial markets and concerns as well about economic growth both at home and abroad. This month, along with our regular consumer attitude questions, we asked Utahns how they feel about the trade negotiations with China. So far, it seems that Utah consumers have not seen significant effects. 70% of Utahns said they have not noticed any impact from the trade negotiations or the tariff increases, though 19% said they have noticed some impact, while 11% indicated they're unsure. In addition, 14% of Utahns credit the tariffs and trade negotiations with driving prices higher, and 5% say their business has been negatively impacted through things like job instability or disrupted supply and sales chains. Looking to the future, there is greater concern. 46% of Utahns indicate that they believe the trade negotiations will negatively impact their personal economic situation, while only 28% said they believe the negotiations will positively impact their personal economic situation. So Utahns remain somewhat conflicted on future economic conditions and how the negotiations and tariffs will affect them personally. Amidst all of this uncertainty, it is important to note that economic fundamentals here in Utah continue to remain strong. According to data from the U.S. Census Bureau, Utah currently has the 8th highest median household income in the United States, and our household income grew by 7.8% this past year. Furthermore, Utah's unemployment has remained unchanged since June at 2.8%, well below the national unemployment rate of 3.7%. Additionally, job growth has continued across all industries in Utah and remains high at 3%, which is more than twice the national job growth rate of 1.4%. So Utah's economy continues to grow, as does the income of Utah's families, both typically positive drivers of consumer spending going forward. With that, I want to welcome Fernanda Bohme, co-founder of Bohme, to share her perspective on the economy, economic growth, and her business, and how tariffs on clothing are impacting current business dynamics. Fernanda?
Thank you for having me. First of all, I want to say a special thank you to ZionsBank for being a true partner, a financial partner with Bohme, and they've really bent over backwards to accommodate us in any way possible. So we're very happy with our new relationship with them. So I was asked to talk a bit about how the tariffs has impacted our business. So we've been in business for 11 years now, and throughout the years we have seen small increases, and so small that the consumer is barely noticing it. But of course, in the last year, everything has gone up. I understand the tariffs going up in order to drive domestic industry, but really that is not a reality. In terms of just everything you see around, I manufactured everything here, all the fixtures, even the light bulb. I manufactured everything overseas, and of course, I saved hundreds of thousands of dollars. And when you take multiple locations, like we have 17 locations, we're remodeling several, we're opening new locations. China has been a huge partner for us to be able to bring in the goods at a much better price and in a much higher quality. So for example, when just tomorrow, actually, I'm clearing 3 containers coming from China, and those are all of our online boxes, shopping bags. We have hundreds of thousands of units in there. And now I'm actually having to pay an extra $25,000 just to clear that, just to pay the tariffs, which is a minimal increase when you look at the overall savings that we've had all these years. And I believe, all these years we have been a bit spoiled by not paying the tariffs. But at the same time, is it going to come back to the U.S.? No, it's just not realistic. When you think about 3 times the cost of doing doing domestic products. For example, in our clothing, we've experienced about a 10% increase. Now, when I'm doing direct business with China, obviously I pay for the tariffs. When I am doing it through a vendor, they pay for the tariffs and all the duties with that. And it's not all the same across the board. You have things like polyurethane, like a full leather jacket or full leather shoes. Those have gone up substantially. We're talking 20 to a 25% increase with that. Okay, what does that mean for the consumer? Is the consumer noticing? I think honestly, the consumer over the years that have been acclimated to that price increase, they're going to see that increase, and we have been increasing our prices just a little bit because what happens is the business has to absorb that cost, right? So just this year alone, we're well in the 6 digits that we've already paid in tariffs. Okay, we're in the stage of the whole Amazon bubble, which is I want it faster, I want it cheaper, and I want it now, right? So us as a company, we still have to be competitive in pricing. So what happens? The business absorbs the prices, right? What happens when the business absorbs the prices? What's the first thing to be cut? Jobs, right? I'm not saying that we're cutting jobs and we're not laying people off, but I would like to say, hey, I wouldn't mind hiring more people, right? Our online business is growing substantially, right? I need more warehousing space. All of that digs into our bottom line at the end of the day. And I have a lot of relationships with our international importers. I mean, we deal with India, Pakistan, China, and all of those countries. And I see their businesses being impacted. And what's happening a lot is when I'm negotiating a garment price, I say, you know what, we can't pay for that because now you've added a couple extra dollars to the garment. They're like, okay, fine. I will take it at a lower margin, and their margins are already razor thin. So now the factory is unable to profit. And that is one thing that a lot of factories are closing, where they have 1,000 employees. They don't want to fire all the employees, so what do? They take the job just to keep the employees there, but they're not profiting. So what happens is the consumer doesn't want to pay more, while the client, me as a business, they don't want to pay more. So somebody has to eat that cost. So it's either the business or in the U.S., or you negotiate that price with China or whatever other partner you have. And so in this case, Bohme has absorbed a lot of the costs, a lot of that tariffs, right? And my biggest fear is, well, even if they come to a trade war agreement, and even if the negotiations escalate even more and they come to an agreement, I'm afraid that those tariffs are going to be in place still, because as the U.S. Treasury receives those funds, right, that couple extra $1 billion for that year, it's really hard to let go of that extra income that the country has made. So I hope it's not permanent, of course, but it's a cost that everybody in the U.S. is paying. And in some of my reading, I see a lot of these jobs are going overseas to keep the costs down. So it's like, it is counterproductive in a lot of ways, I believe, and it has impacted our business substantially. But as a whole, I don't think the consumer quite understands what the tariffs are and how it's impacting their day-to-day lives. I don't think they know. And I think, you're not going to see prices double, but I think you're going to see that gradual increase where the consumer won't even notice. And as far as consumer confidence in their spending, I believe it has been a little bit softer than LY, but at the same time, fashion right now, it's a feast or famine, right? You're either doing really great or you're not, okay? So right now, it's all about fashion trends and where that's going. And so if you're staying on top of the trends and you're delivering that quality product to the consumer, I think you'll be just fine as a business. And we've done quite well. And like I said, all the things that we've imported, I think, has saved us hundreds of thousands. So like I said, China has been a great partner for us in making this work. And right now we employ almost 300 employees in 5 different states. And so being able to import those goods have enabled us to grow our business, to employ more Americans. And so our bottom line, well, somebody's going to have to absorb the cost, right? And so that's about it for me. If anybody has any questions or concerns, and
my name is Kim from Deseret News. How long until your customers notice an increase in price for your products?
how long until they notice it?
Yeah, because right now you said that consumers aren't really noticing the impact that business owners are facing. So how long until they become more aware when those goods that they usually buy at a normal price start increasing?
They may not even notice because the business may absorb that cost for them in order to be competitive in the field. So that's one thing. It may go up that 75 cents. Maybe that's all they're going to notice, and they may not notice that. And maybe the next month it's another 50 cents. It's another 50 cents here and there, where that gradual increase, you'll just be acclimated to the new prices. That's just what's going to happen. Just how we've been acclimated to the new pricing of homes, right? You've had to acclimate to that price point. Same thing with clothing. And clothing and electronics have been mostly impacted by that.
Fernanda, thanks so much for giving your insights and perspective. Are there any other questions? Great. We'd like to thank everyone for coming, and thanks for joining our press conference today.
Thank you for having me.